How did we get here? I can remember my husband and I were in high school and we were high school sweethearts. I remember the day that he walked up to me at my locker and basically told me that I was going to be his girlfriend. So we dated while I was a senior and he was a junior in high school. And we continued to date long distance as I began college and he finished up high school. And then I transferred to go and attend the same college that he was attending. And so we were 20 years old when we got married, and we were madly in love with one another and excited for life and all that life was bringing. But the best part was that we were friends. We truly liked each other and we used to laugh and we had so much fun seeing the world and building a life together. We had this 4-year plan where we got married, and before we had children, we wanted to spend as much time together as possible, just doing the things that a young couple would do. And so it was so amazing those first few years. But we were just two young people who really didn't know who they were. And we were just really finding out, our core values and living life outside of what we've been taught at home. And so when you have two young people who are still figuring out who they are and starting careers and beginning to raise a family, it can look like you're on the right page, but later sometimes you find out that, you made promises based on what you thought people needed you to be and based on values from your childhood that you really hadn't fully embraced as your own as an adult. But I do believe, I believe what happened was just that. I believe that though I kind of knew what my values were and my values were pretty, constant and stable, I do believe that my husband wasn't really fully understanding who he was and he was still trying to figure that out. And in the meantime, he did meet and fall in love with me, I do believe, but he was trying to be what he thought I needed him to be. And I think he was, still thinking of his parents and trying to be what he thought they needed him to be. And then the world and God, I believe he knew that God was calling him, but he was still trying to figure all of that out. And so it could look like someone was lying to you and making, false statements of who they are and what their intentions are. But sometimes in actuality, I do believe that sometimes when we don't know what our core values are and who we are, then we open ourselves up to attempt to become what people need us to be. And sometimes that brings disappointment. Sometimes that brings frustrations. And sometimes it ends relationships because what you thought you could give, you find out that you either can or you don't want to give. And so, not having, giving any excuses or anything, but, knowing what I know now, I do believe that that was one of the things that had a huge part to play in our relationship. And so, would I do it all over again, knowing what I know now? Do I regret getting married? I would absolutely marry my husband again. My husband used to say that his only regret was that we didn't get married sooner. And again, I don't regret marrying my husband at all, because I know that in God and with God, my husband is the most amazing person that I know. And to this day, he knows me better than any other person on this earth. And so I know that God has great plans for him and through our family and for the kingdom of God. And though this is painful and the waiting is brutal, I know that God is going to come through for us. And I do believe that my husband will be saved, sanctified, and delivered, fully surrendered, and walking in God's purpose for and plan for his life. And until then, I just trust God and I believe his word and I stand on every promise he has spoken and declared over our family. And I do believe that it is well.